like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Hey everyone, welcome back. You know we love diving deep and getting into the really complex stuff, and that's exactly what we're doing today.
Absolutely.
We're talking disaster management.
Big topic.
A big one, for sure. And particularly FEMA's role.
Yeah.
And, you've been following along, you know how much research we do.
Oh, yeah.
And we came across something pretty wild.
I know, right?
Yeah. We were looking at this CBS News article,
Mm-hmm.
and it talks about President Trump visiting these disaster zones.
Okay.
But then at the same time talking about maybe dismantling FEMA.
Yeah, it really stood out to me, too, when I was reading that article.
Like, whoa, hold on. The agency that's supposed to help when disaster strikes could be gone?
Right. You almost have to read it twice.
I know. So we got to break this down,
Yeah.
Figure out what's going on here.
I think the first thing we need to do is just understand
Yeah.
what FEMA does right now, their role.
Yeah, good point.
So FEMA, that stands for Federal Emergency Management Agency. And basically, they have to be ready for anything.
Oh, yeah.
You name it. Hurricanes, wildfires, earthquakes.
That's a lot.
It is. And they're the ones who step up to help communities recover.
Okay, so that makes sense. Like, they're the go-to for this stuff.
Exactly.
So then how does this whole dismantling thing even come up?
Well, the article talks about President Trump visiting these disaster zones. Right?
Yeah, in North Carolina and California, places that had been hit hard by those hurricanes and wildfires.
Right, the very things FEMA is there to handle.
Exactly. And it's like he's standing there saying, get rid of them.
Yeah, it's a little ironic, to say the least.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is.
So, like, hypothetically, let's say FEMA is dismantled.
Okay.
What happens then? Who's in charge?
Well, you've got to think it would probably fall back on individual states.
So every state's on its own?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
And think about the implications of that.
Yeah, because states have their own budgets, their own resources.
Exactly. Like, picture a huge hurricane hitting the coast.
Oh, man.
And it just overwhelms the state's emergency services, hospitals overflowing, communication systems down.
Oh, it'd be chaos.
Right. And then you have people fleeing to neighboring states.
And those states have their own problems from the disaster.
Exactly. It's like a domino effect.
So it's not just about who responds, it's about if they even can respond.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And then there's the money.
Oh, yeah, the big one.
Can states even handle the costs of something this big?
Well, right now, FEMA brings federal funding to the table, right?
Yeah.
If that's gone,
Ooh, tough decisions.
states might have to cut essential services or raise taxes.
And imagine if multiple states get hit at the same time.
Yeah.
They'd be competing for those resources.
Absolutely. It could get very messy.
And we can't forget about working together.
Cooperation, yeah.
A disaster doesn't just stop at a state border. Would states be able to coordinate effectively? Especially if everyone's already stretched thin?
That's a big concern.
It feels like we'd be trading this coordinated national response for a bunch of separate systems that might not work well together.
It's fragmentation, potentially at the worst possible time.
And then there's the bigger picture.
The global impact.
Exactly. Right now, the U.S. is a leader in helping with international disasters. What happens to that if we can't even handle our own problems effectively?
That's a good question.
Does it weaken our position? Make other countries less likely to work with us?
Potentially, yeah.
It's a lot to consider.
Absolutely.
We started with this idea of dismantling FEMA,
Yeah.
and now we're talking about states, resources, global implications.
It just shows how connected everything is.
It really does. This deep dive has been eye-opening.
Sometimes the biggest challenges aren't the disasters themselves, but the decisions we make about how to handle them.
So true. And for everyone listening, we'll leave you with this thought.
Okay.
If the U.S. steps back from disaster management, could that create an opening for someone else to step in?
Interesting.
Private groups, other countries, something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.